Hello students, welcome to our YouTube channel Academy Ambala. I am Mrs. Shashi Sharma. Today we'll do a poem from the book Beehive, and the name of the poem is A Legend of the Northland, which is penned down by Phoebe Carey. A Legend of the Northland is a ballad. Now, ballad is a poem which narrates a story, and all the stanzas are short, which comprise of only 4 lines. Now, in all total, there are 16 stanzas. Ballads are a part of folk culture or popular culture and are passed on orally from one generation to the next generation. The folk culture consists of traditional stories which are passed on from one generation to the next generation. Now, this poem is the story of the Northland area, the area which is near the North Pole. The exact place is not specified, but Northland means the area in the northernmost part of the earth. Away, away in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. In the area around the North Pole, the duration of the day is very less because its position is such that the sun's rays reach there for a very less time. Now, when this area is experiencing winter season, the duration of the night is very long and the daytime hours are very less. The poet says that the duration of night, people cannot sleep them through. If they go to bed, take a few hours of sleep, and then they wake up, it is still night time. He wants to emphasize on the fact that the duration of the night is very long. Now, when they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like bears' cubs in their funny, furry clothes. Because the Northland region experiences severe cold conditions, the reindeer is an animal which is found in this polar region. People tie the reindeers to the sledges and then the reindeers pull the sledges. He also adds that the children, they look like young ones of bear because they wear very funny looking clothes which are made up of fur, and it gives them the look of furry skin of the bear. Now, they tell them a curious story. I don't believe it's true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. The elders of the northern region tell a strange and interesting story to the younger generation. The poet says that he doesn't think that the story is true, but if he tells the story to the reader, maybe the reader could learn a lesson from it. And the story here gives us a very important message. Once, when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it preaching just as he did, you know. The poet further says that this ballad, this story is about Saint Peter, and when he used to live in the world below, he went around giving religious lectures to the people. And it was during this time that this incident happened. He came to the door of a cottage in traveling round the earth where a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. While he was traveling, he reached the door of a woman's cottage where she was making cakes and she was baking the cakes in the fireplace. Because the good Saint Peter, he was faint with fasting, for the day was almost done, he asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one. Because the good saint had not eaten anything the entire day, and he was very hungry and also weak. So he went to this woman who was baking the cakes and asked her for one cake out of the many cakes that she had baked. The woman, she made a very little cake, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. Now, the woman, it seems, was a very selfish woman. She did not want to give the cake from her store. Instead, she started making a very small cake for Saint Peter. But when she put the cake for baking, she looked at it and thought that the cake was too big to be given to someone. Therefore, she needed another and still a smaller one, but it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first one had done. The little miser woman thought that the cake was too big to be given away. So then she started making another cake with a small amount of dough. But again, the same feeling came to her, and she did not want to part away with the next cake also. Then she took a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as a wafer, but she couldn't part with that. The third time, again she took a very small amount of dough and rolled it as thin as a wafer. But she was so greedy that she could not give that thin piece of bread also to the saint. For she said, "My cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself are yet too large to give away." So she put them on the shelf. Now the woman reasoned to herself that when she ate the cakes herself, she always felt that they were too small. But when she had to give them to somebody, she felt that they were too big. So finally she put all the cakes on the shelf again and did not give any cake to Saint Peter. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. Saint Peter became very angry, as he was hungry and also weak. But the greedy woman was not ready to give him even a small cake. This behavior of the woman angered the saint. And he said, "You are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter and fire to keep you warm." Saint Peter cursed the woman and said that she was a very selfish woman and she did not deserve to live like a human. He added that God has given her food, shelter, fire to keep her warm, but she had become so selfish. For all the resources she had, she did not want to share them with anyone. Now he cursed her. "Now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in the hard, dry wood." Saint Peter, because of his anger, cursed the woman that she would become a bird. She did not deserve to be a human form, and like the birds, she would also build her own nest by boring into the wood and collect very little food by working hard the entire day. All day she would have to work and get very little food and make a small place for herself to live in it. Then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was chained to a bird. As soon as the Saint Peter cursed the woman, she did not get a chance to speak for herself, because that very moment she flew up the roof through the chimney and out in the form of a bird. Saint Peter's curse had changed the woman into a bird. She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same, but all the rest of her clothes were burnt black as coal in the flame. When the woman turned into a bird, at that time she was wearing a red-colored cap on her head. Now, this cap was there on the bird's head also, but the woman's remaining clothes remained uh, black as coal because they were burnt. And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood, where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. People who live in the countryside, even the small children who go to school, they have seen this kind of bird in the woods, and they have seen that she stays there all day and it keeps on digging into the wood to collect her food. Whenever any child sees this kind of a bird, then his or her elders tell them the story that the bird used to be a greedy woman and she was cursed by Saint Peter. They get a teaching that they should not be greedy. Thank you, children, and have a good day.